Hi, welcome to my channel. Many of you have been waiting for this for a long time. It's a no-drill side mount. These are great for those who aren't handy or don't have tools or just don't want to drill holes into their receiver. None of the above is me. It sells for about $200 Canadian plus shipping plus taxes. Let's take a look what's inside the box. There's a rail, looks pretty familiar. A mount with a Canadian manufacturer name on it, a right-sided selector, and two access pins. The thicker one is for the hammer and the thinner one is for the trigger. Now the reason why this looks familiar is because there's an American company that has designed one very similar to this. It's their Gen 1 AK rail. It sells for about $150 Canadian, so I would not expect this to be made in the USA. Besides, the box says made in China. So I went to AliExpress and I found about a dozen that looks very similar to this. And actually, 3 or 4 looks identical to this. But about 8 or 9 looks different, slightly different. But the 3 main distinctions are, one, is the locking mechanism. This one is a pivoting lock separate, and the other one on AliExpress is connected to the lever. And 2, this one has a cutout here. See, it goes down, it comes back up. The one on AliExpress goes straight across. And number 3, this locking mechanism is about 1 1/8 inch wide, while the one on AliExpress is less than an inch. And those are the 3 main distinctions between the 2 different types that's on AliExpress. Now, I have 3 reels here. One's from Belarus, one's from China, and one's from Czech Republic. These are all AK VZ-58 mounts, reels. So, I'm going to check to see if they fit. And it does not. It's stuck. It's not going in. Let's check the one from China. Okay. And again, that too is stuck. Let's check the one from Czech Republic. This is the one I installed on my DMR, and it's also gets stuck right about here. Okay, we'll have to find out why these does not fit this mount. Now, I'm not going to show you how to install this on your rifle. The reason why is because the dealer have a YouTube video, and it's a pretty good one. The only difference, the only thing I would do different is that I would do the adjustment of the locking mechanism prior to mounting on a rifle, so you can actually see more of what I'm doing than after it's already mounted on the rifle. And this is what I mean. Okay. And by the way, I would strongly recommend you put this together prior to putting it on the rifle. You put the fatter pin, the hammer pin, to one in the front, put the trigger pin towards the back, tighten it up with an Allen wrench. They recommend using a torque wrench, and then they ask you to deburr these openings for the pins. And it's very simple. Just use a knife and just go like this. Okay. Put it in an angle and just deburr the edges of that, including the selector opening like this. Okay, do that and do a test run before you actually install this on your rifle. So you put that in first, the one that with the hammer, and then push this all the way down. Okay. And if it doesn't go all the way down, you have to deburr some more, and till this is level with the mount. Now you're securely in there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is show you how to make the adjustment, okay, adjusting this lock. You put this, see it better? I'm putting that in like that. Now you push the lever all the way to the front. And I noticed while I was pushing the lever there was no resistance at all. And matter of fact, I can even hear the mount moving, you know, that it should be that way. It should be no movement at all. So therefore I have to make the adjustment. Okay, unlock it, remove the mount, and what you need to do is push the entire lock upwards. And the reason why is that you won't be able to turn this nut. You will not be able to turn this nut because this nut is held in place by this wall. This nut has 6 sides, and the sides are held on by the wall. So you need to push the nut past the wall so you could turn it. Okay, I'm just going to turn one side, okay? Just going to turn to one side, and I'm going to release it and have it come down. And now I'm going to put the mount on, and then, okay, I do feel a little bit of more resistance on the lever. Okay, now that's pretty good, but I can still feel a little bit of movement on the lever. So I'm just going to unlock it again, and I'm going to do it one more time. I'll push the whole lock up and turn clockwise the nut, and then I'll push that in, and I can feel a lot of resistance here. And now you hear the snapping of the lock, and that doesn't move, and this does move, and that's how you adjust the locking mechanism. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this on a LMG, and then I'll compare that to my DMR with this. Okay, I'm back. I mounted the mount on my rifle, and I must say it wasn't that easy. It took me over 20 minutes, and I did it twice. Each time it took me over 20 minutes. It wasn't fun, but it's on now. Now I want to compare the two mounts. This one compared to the CSA mount that I have on my DMR rifle. And this is made out of steel. This is made out of alloy. This is held in by 2 pins. This is held on by 3 screws. 2 screws on the upper side of the receiver, 1 OEM screw on the lower side of the receiver. As you know, both of these pins are on the lower side of the receiver, so therefore this is taller, this is shorter, but it's wider. Okay. Now you'll also notice that it's mounted forward on this one. I did that deliberately to avoid, you know, interfering with the selector. As you can see, the selector, I can still continue to use my right thumb, and I can just flick it 90 degrees. Okay. Now this one, because the mount is more towards the back, it's covering the selector right there, and therefore they gave you part of the package a right-sided selector, and it is right here. It's still the original 180 degrees throw. It's a little stiff right now, but I'm sure it'll get loose as time goes on. But I don't know why they didn't do 90 degrees. But there you have it. It's right there. Okay. Also, I've noticed they did exactly what I did. I did a forward cant dip, and I did about 1 millimeter over a 4-inch drop. In other words, the front of the mount is lower by 1 millimeter compared to the back, and they did the same thing. Now the reason why I did that is because I plan to shoot with my DMR past 200 meters. So between 200 and 250 meters, that's when the the bullet drops quite significantly, and therefore you have to have the mount canted forward to allow for that dip. Otherwise, I would run out of adjustment for my scope. So that is the reason why I did that. They did the same thing, so there's no difference. The only difference is the location of the mount. They mounted towards the back, and I mounted towards the front. And that's all due to the way the rails look. As you can see, this CSA rail is a lot beefier compared to the rail from the dealer here. It's like twice as thick, but this one has 4 posts while this has 2, but you can see even the top rail, it's a lot beefier. This one is compared to this one. Okay, now I've tried putting this on this mount before. It did not work. Now I'm going to try this one on the CSA. Now I already adjusted the lock, and I will put it on now, and I'll slide it forward. Okay, and guess what? It fits. No movement. It works. This rail is not angled back. It's over the opening. All right, that's the only difference. But there has to be a reason why this would not fit this mount, and yet this would fit that mount. Although I had to adjust it prior. Now I have to unadjust it. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now I'm going to put this back onto the proper like that, and this one like that. I'm gonna look back if it's in line, and I'm looking straight down the rail right towards the front post, and I see I'm off about, actually you can even tell from here that's about 2 millimeters towards the left. Now I read, according to the dealer, that was done deliberately. Now if I look at mine, it's actually dead on. It's exactly centered. Okay. Apparently the dealer said it was deliberately canted to the left. Now I understand canting forward because of the distance that you plan to shoot, but canting it to the left, I don't actually understand that. And I wonder if the mount has anything to do with it. Okay. Now if you look at this mount very carefully, there's a slight rise on the mount on the upper part. Here, if I could point that out to you, yes. That slight rise right there. I wonder if that is what, okay, I just suspect that. Okay. The reason why is that when this was mounted on mine, it was dead center. But when this one went back on this one, it's not dead center. So I think it's probably to do with these two little things. Okay, the only thing nice about this rail is that it's longer, 7 inches compared to 4 inches. I wish this was a little bit longer in the rails than this one. This is longer. So that's the only thing regarding the two rails. I like this rail much better. Also, the disadvantage of having this rail is that left-hand shooters cannot use this. As you can see, if you're left-hand shooters, this is really in the way. Okay, so I don't know why they didn't choose a different rail, but you cannot, left-hand shooters cannot use this rail. So that is, I'm coming to the end of this video, and I must say I'm not a big fan of no drill mounts, and the reason why is because I feel, well, first of all, these mounts, AK mounts, Czech mounts, they've been around for like 3 generations. The no drill mounts actually about maybe 10, 15 years at most. There's a company called in the States called AK Master Mount. They have a no drill mount similar to this one. The only difference is when there's their pin that goes from the left. Okay, it goes from the left. Here, I'll show you what I mean. The AK Master Mount has those 2 pins. They go from the left, and they have a hex head which prevents them from turning, and they stick out over here. And what holds the whole contraption together is the 2 screws. It utilized 2 screws to hold the whole mechanism together. And there are disadvantages of doing that. And to be fair with AK Master Mount, it's one mount designed for several variants from different countries, and you're bound to have some rifles that are not, up to spec, and therefore what it does when you screw this in, it tends to bind the bolt. Now that is an issue with the some AK Master Mounts. Okay, but this one is only designed for one rifle, so it shouldn't have that much of a problem. However, in the long term, also with the AK Master Mount, they eventually start telling everybody to use Loctite on the screws, because the screw was unraveling. So therefore, I have a funny feeling these pins could do the same as the hammer and the trigger keeps rotating those pins. That might also become unloosened. So I have reservations about no drill mounts. I personally love these ones. I always have ever since SKS, and they have proven to be the best mounts for this platform. Now you ever wonder if no drill mounts are really that good? Why did the Czech or the Russians or the Chinese for that matter did not adopt that? They must have tested it. They must have known about it. They must have tested it. And why did they not adopt something like that? I think it's because they probably did test that and found out in the long term it's probably not the best system. And it's probably okay for civilian, but for long term, for soldiers, it's probably not the best system. And I'll tend to agree with them that the bolt-on side mounts are much better than the no drill side mounts. But then again, like I said, the civilian prefer to have this so you don't drill holes like I have. I've drilled 3 holes on for that one, but this is far more benefit to it. Once that is bolted on, it stays on. I don't have to remove it to clean the FCG or anything like that. This one you do, and so that basically ends the video. So thank you very much for joining me, and please subscribe.